Welcome to Stetson Law Live, an online interactive informational event for prospective students of Stetson University College of Law. Your host today, Professor Bobbi Flowers, and her guest, Darnisha Carter, Tiffany Finelli, and Kyle Ross. Our subject today, Advocacy at Stetson Law.
Well, welcome. We are very excited to have you today to talk a little bit about advocacy at Stetson. I will tell you, advocacy at Stetson is a big topic, and we love to talk about it because it's probably one of our favorite thing. So we want to invite you, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to do those questions, send those questions in for us. I see that Esther has joined us, so hi Esther, and we want to see some questions, so that'll help us to have a good conversation. The first thing I want to do is to introduce my panelists and have them tell you just a little bit about themselves so you can kind of get to know them. Darnisha?
I'll start. I'm Darnisha Carter. I'm a 3L student here at Stetson, and I'm also a member of the Moot Court Board and Stetson Law Review.
All right.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyle Ross. I'm a 3L here at Stetson, and I'm a member of the trial team.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Finelli. I'm a 3L here at Stetson, and I am a member of the ADR Board and the Moot Court Board.
All right. Where are you guys from, like originally, or at least where'd you come from to come to Stetson?
I'm originally from Miami. I was born and raised there. I went to undergrad at Florida A&M in Tallahassee, and then I made my way back to St. Petersburg.
Okay. Are you a Florida boy?
I am. I'm South Florida as well. I'm from a little sandy town called Jupiter, and I went to UCF for undergrad, and now I'm here.
Huh? Tiffany?
And I'm from New Jersey. I went to Penn State undergrad, and then I decided to come to Florida for law school.
Yeah. What made you guys come to Stetson? What were some of the things that kind of enticed you here?
What we're here today to talk about.
Okay.
The best advocacy school in the country. That's
Okay.
what attracted me here, and that's been my experience.
Excellent.
Although I knew about Stetson's advocacy program, it wasn't really the thing that kind of sealed the deal for me, just because in the beginning I didn't really know if I wanted to be a litigator. I didn't know what type of law I wanted to do. So what really captured my heart was the people here. I went on several tours of different law schools, and when I went to Stetson, it was the first place that I went to, and I already immediately felt welcome. I would walk around, and people who did not know me, who clearly did not know me, were waving and saying hi, and it seemed as though we knew each other for years, even though we didn't. And so I felt immediately at home, and so I was like, this is where I need to be.
Very cool. Tiffany?
The legal writing program here is just bar none, and being a biology major undergrad, I knew that legal writing was going to be something that I struggled a bit more with, and so I wanted to really come to a school that is known for legal writing, and it's just such an important area of practicing law. So
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about your experience so far. Now you said that advocacy, it's been what you came here for and it's turned out to be, but tell me specifically, what is it about the advocacy that has lived up to your expectations?
Everything, from the family environment, from the teams, to the training we get from truly world-class coaches. Stetson really lives up to its reputation.
Okay. Your experience?
It's sort of along the same lines, except for me, I came in the advocacy boards, and I felt that I had certain weaknesses that I wanted to build on. And Stetson really followed through with its program by strengthening all of the weaknesses that I had, especially with regard to oral advocacy.
Okay. Tiffany?
the best experience for me so far has just been being able to work with lawyers, practitioners in the area, and really getting good feedback. And this is the stuff that we do every day as lawyers. So that was really important to me to be able to get that training before we go out into the real world.
Okay, all right. So if you had the opportunity to look at these folks that are out there and say, here's my one piece of advice as you were deciding what school you want to go to, or you're in that preschool phase, what might be that advice to these folks?
One piece of advice that I would give is to find a school that gives you practical skills. It's okay to learn about different theories of law, but you need to go to a school that you can actually come out of school and actually feel like I can start as a lawyer on day one, and you have to get a school that will give you practical skills, and I definitely feel like Stetson does that.
Okay. So one of the questions that people might want to ask as they're going around and looking at schools is what kind of practical experience, either simulation courses or clinics and internships, do you have? What would you advise?
As far as the school and internships
Yeah.
and clinics here, well, Stetson is just one big laboratory, I would say, for advocacy. There's just countless classes that you can take to sharpen your skills, everything from pretrial advocacy, interviewing with clients, mediation. We also have multiple trial ad classes and advanced trial ad classes. And we also have moot court arguments that we do as a 1L in brief and through the brief phase. So really you get every single piece of advocacy through the laboratory that Stetson provides.
Okay. Well, so let's go there. Let's talk specifically about, because you each one said you were on a different team. So I guess let's start at the beginning, right, of the process. Tiffany, you're on the moot court team, but talk to us a little bit about dispute resolution, that competition team or board.
Sure. Well, the dispute resolution board is just everything before you get to trial. And these are the skills that you're going to be doing every day as a lawyer, whether it's negotiation, mediation, arbitration. We do competitions in interviewing and client counseling. And by doing all of these things, you're really prepping for sort of the next phases of trial team and then appeal, which is moot court board. So really the ADR board is giving you those skills that you're going to be using right away. And they really are such practical skills. And being on two teams, you learn so much from both, and they're just both different experiences.
Well, it sounds strange that you would have a competition that is a client counseling competition. Like, how does that work? Do you bring your own client, or how does that competition work?
Sure. Well, typically you receive a client when you get to the competition. It's somebody from the school that you're going to the competition at, and the client will have a specific set of facts that they have to follow, and they have a problem. And sort of going into the competition, you're being given a little snippet sort of what kind of area of law it might be. So it might be family law, it might be criminal law. It really just depends. And then when you get to the competition, it's basically just trying to find out your client's wants and needs, what they want to get out of your representation, and things like that. And so by doing that, it's just really teaching you how to interact with clients that you'd be doing every day in the practice of law.
Very cool. All right, so we've got the ADR board, which is really those skills that you use kind of in the office, right?
Right.
To negotiate and to counsel clients, to interview clients, and that's kind of the pre-trial. And then we got the trial team. Kyle, tell us a little bit about trial team.
So when mediation fails, usually you go to trial, and that's where our life begins. How the competitions work is you'll receive a fact pattern. They're anywhere from 50 to 100 pages, and you and your team get to rip apart this packet in a in-depth case analysis. Your team will consist of 4 other people and multiple coaches, and you really, in detail, just work up theories and themes. In some cases, they ask you to use case law as well. So you kind of weave in case law throughout your arguments. And then you really build a case through the bottom floor all the way up. Openings, closings, directs, crosses, motions in limine. We get the full experience. It's just like doing a real trial, but nobody's actually going to jail.
Right. And do you do just one side of it, or do you do both sides? How does that work?
So on the 4-person team, typically how it works is 2 people will advocate on one side and then witness on the other side. So you'll have the experience of building up both sides of the case. Rarely do people flip. That's a very, very hard job.
Okay. And then after the trial is over?
And then we have the appellate process. So basically what happens is someone has lost at trial, and so they want to appeal that decision to the appellate court and say that something went wrong at the trial level. And so what moot court is all about is what happens at the appellate level, and that involves 2 parts. One part is the actual appellate brief, and so the appellate brief is sort of a misnomer because it's not brief at all. It's actually somewhere between 40 to 50 pages sometimes. And then it also involves oral argument. And oral argument consists of a 15-minute argument per person. And usually there are 2 people on each side, and you'll have an appellant or an appellee, or In some cases, it'll be called a petitioner and respondent, and each side will have 2 oralists, and each oralist will argue for 15 minutes, appealing the decision from the trial court.
All right. And now you also indicated that you're on law review.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what's law review and how is it that you can do both law review and moot court? My goodness.
Well, law review is basically a journal, and one misconception that people have about law review is that you do a lot of writing and you have to be a really great writer. But with law review, the main primary thing that we do is editing articles for publication in our journal. And so that's what law review basically consists of. And I think moot court and law review sort of go hand in hand, at least in my experience. Law review has helped me to be more keen when I'm doing my appellate brief, and on the flip side, a moot court has helped me with interacting with authors on the law review publication schedule. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, I think it's easy for them to go hand in hand, although it's a lot of work and a lot of effort. I think because if you can see how they can help each other, I think that helps motivate you to do both.
Right. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's interesting about Stetson is that we don't just have a law review, we also have 3 other journals that students can write on. Also, we have a Journal of International Aging Law and Policy, because of our elder law bent here at Stetson. We have an advocacy journal, which is an online journal that students can help with, and we also have a wildlife journal. So we have a variety of different opportunities for that writing experience, that citing experience. So, you know, you can do a variety of different things. Mm-hmm. Now, I thought I heard you say, Tiffany, that you're on both the ADR and moot court.
That's right.
How do you do that?
Well, the coaches are just great about working with the schedule. It's definitely a lot of work, but it's great because I'm getting sort of the skills from both sides. So I'm still getting that courtroom feel while still figuring out how to do everything that leads up to actually stepping foot in that courtroom, which is nice. Typically, if you are competing on 2 teams, you would sort of flip-flop and do one competition for one team one semester, and then the next semester you would just switch and do the other team. There are opportunities to compete in more than one competition for more than one team, however, per semester.
Right. So how did you get on both of those teams? What's the tryout process?
Sure. Well, when we tried out, and I know that when we tried out, we had to wait until our first summer after the first year of law school. And the moot court process is writing a brief and then performing an oral argument, and then that's how you get on the team. The ADR board is first a set of facts that you get, and you get secret facts, you get a partner, and you go in and do a negotiation. There's judges watching, you do the negotiation, answer some questions afterwards, and then after the negotiation round, if you advance the second round, is when you get to do a client interview. We have one of our faculty or staff come on and play the client, and I know that you played the client when I tried out, which was really fun. But then after that process, you go, whoever advances after the interview round would just have just an informal interview with a few of the advisors here as part of the Advocacy Center.
All right. And how do you try out for trial team?
So same situation where it's in the summer in between your 1 and 2 well year. You'll get a fact pattern and you'll work up closing arguments from both sides. You'll have to, for the first round, you give, let's say, for the prosecution. You'll go in and you'll advocate in front of a room of former trial team members and some professors. And if you advance past that round, and then you'll engage in an interview process with the coaches on the team. If you make it through that, and then it is the final round of tryouts where you have to prepare a closing argument and a cross-examination that you do in a big courtroom in front of all the bigwigs on campus, and it's a pressure scenario, and it's a great experience, and you really decide then and there whether or not you have what it takes. If you make it through that, then comes the boot camp phase where you're really drilled in all the fundamentals of advocacy, and it's a multi-layer process. And if you're fortunate enough to make it, then you're part of the team.
Okay. Well, Elisa has asked whether you can be part of any of these advocacy teams as a 1L. Anything that happens in your 1L year that might be part of that advocacy team approach?
Well, although you cannot actually become a part of the advocacy boards, there are many things that you can do in order to build up those skills so that you'll be in a prime position to make it onto the team. One thing that I did the closing argument competition, and that's strictly solely for 1Ls. And basically, you just draft up your closing argument without any, help through the advocacy boards, and you just take your shot at it. And that's not only a chance for you to strengthen your skills, but it's also a chance for you to determine whether or not you actually want to do one of the advocacy boards.
All right. And then, of course, R&W1, which you talked a little bit about our writing. How does research and writing 2 kind of go hand in hand with moot court?
Oh, it's pretty much a replicate of what we do on moot court. So in your R&W class, you will be required to write a brief, and you will be required to do an oral argument, and that's exactly what we do on moot court. And in fact, there's actually an avenue for you to make it onto moot court by doing a really good job in your R&W 2 class.
All right. Lori in Chicago is interested in corporate law and business law. And she wants to know, is there really any place for her on the advocacy boards? Does it make sense that she would do advocacy with regard to that path that she's on?
Sure. I mean, the competitions vary. So sometimes you're going to get criminal law. Other times you'll have things like family law or corporate law or something to do with business law. And so it really is just teaching you the skills. It's not so much the substance, but every once in a while you will get the substance that you like to do.
Right. Well, because right now you're doing a competition that's a bankruptcy competition.
Yes.
Do you like bankruptcy?
I do. I actually hope to practice bankruptcy. I'm actually doing an internship with a federal bankruptcy judge right now. So it's interesting to be able to learn and to write for the moot court competition, but also to get that real world experience from the internship.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about internships. There's a couple questions about clinics, and we're going to get to those, I promise. But let's talk about internships first. Sometimes we call them externships, sometimes we call them internships. Now, you indicated that you have an internship with a bankruptcy judge?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you get that internship, and what's that experience like?
So in getting the internships, I also did a federal judicial internship with the United States District Court for the Middle District of Florida. That's in Tampa. And so in going through that process, you apply through the school's application process. And if you're selected, you are placed with one of the judges. And then depending upon which internship you'd like to do is how you figure out where you're placed.
And what kinds of things are you doing as an intern for the judge?
So interning with the judge, you're doing a lot of researching, drafting, a lot of memos, internal memorandums. So the judge will have a specific topic that they'd maybe like a little bit more information on. And so you'll kind of sit down and start to research and use the research tools that you're given. And by doing that, you can sort of hand them a clear picture of what the law looks like currently.
Mm-hmm. Do you get to spend any time in court to actually see what's going on?
Yes, which is probably the most exciting part, especially being in federal court. It's just so very professional and very formal, and it's just such a cool atmosphere to be in and to get that experience. I would suggest that even if you choose not to do an internship, that you at some point make it inside a courtroom, because it really is an interesting experience.
Yeah. Darnisha, you're also doing an internship, or have done?
Yes, I did this. Also did the federal judicial internship, and one thing that I really appreciated about that internship was the fact that you actually have an opportunity to get inside of a judge's mind, to see, the pros and the cons, where the law lies, and how a judge thinks, which can be really phenomenal and impressive.
Right.
And additionally, in federal court specifically, there are a variety of different types of cases that you'll get to see. You'll get to see the criminal cases, you'll get to see the civil cases, you'll get to see the business and corporate law cases, everything among the gamut. And so I think that was another good experience for me to determine what type of law I actually want to do.
Exactly. And what kind of law are you going to do?
Right now, that judicial internship turned out to be super fruitful for me, because it turned into a clerkship. So that's where I'll be starting when I graduate.
Cool. Okay. One of the interesting things about Stetson that a lot of people don't know is that we have some of the most unusual internships, from the perspective that our internships are all overseen by our full-time faculty members who are interested in that kind of law. So the professor that teaches in corporations, she oversees the in-house counsel internship. Our environmental law folks, they oversee the environmental law. So unlike a lot of schools where you have all of the internships clinics being overseen by a clinic department or an internship department. Ours are actually being overseen by the people that really know that area of law. So if you have an interest in law, we have so many different internships. We have elder law, we have environmental law, we have employment law, we have intellectual property. So if you have an interest, you can be in an internship where you're getting the experience out in the world, but you also have a supervisor here on campus who is also an expert in that area. So it's kind of a double whammy, if you will. And I've seen a lot of questions about clinics, and I think sometimes people don't understand, well, what's a clinic and what's an externship? What's the difference? Well, the real difference between a clinic and an externship is in a clinic, you actually represent clients. That's right. In your third year here at Stetson, you can actually be representing clients in a variety of different clinics. We have a prosecution clinic, so you're there actually prosecuting cases. And I know, Kyle, at one point you thought you were going to get to do that, and it ended up not working for you for the summer. And then we have the public defender clinic. We have the federal public defender clinic. We have the veterans clinic. I think somebody had mentioned that, where you're basically representing people that need to get benefits from the Veterans Administration. And so that's a wonderful opportunity for people that have an interest in military issues and with veterans. And so we have a variety of clinics where you actually are representing people, which is a little bit different, obviously, than an internship where you're with a judge. You might be doing more research, more just watching. But again, the opportunity to talk to a judge and say, what is it that you're looking for, Judge, in a courtroom? What is it that this advocate didn't do right or did do right is so helpful, right? So interesting. So somebody asked the question about, what are Stetson students like? Kyle, what are Stetson students like?
Well, one thing that Darnisha said that really stood out to me too is that it's a very welcoming campus. You know, I'm not just saying that. It really, really is. And I felt that same warm family atmosphere as soon as I stepped on campus as well. It's very easy to find your niche and study groups and groups that are involved in the same types of law you're in. There's a bunch of different societies. And on these teams, it's also very much a family environment.
Yeah. Tiffany, what are Stetson students like?
I will say that throughout my 3 years here, I have yet to meet a single student that has not been willing to go above and beyond to help everybody else. Even the faculty and staff, I've never been in such a warm environment before. And coming to law school is scary. It's a scary thing. It's a big adjustment. And I moved actually from New Jersey to Florida, so that was just a big adjustment as well, moving into the area, being new to Florida. And I love it, and I'm never leaving, and I owe Stetson for that.
Oh, good. Darnisha, students.
Yeah, when I first came to law school, well, before I came to law school, I thought that I would come to law school and be a bunch of really smart students and everybody's super competitive and nobody wants to share their notes and anything like that. And when I came to Stetson, it was the exact opposite turned out to be true. In fact, Tiffany and I, the entire first year, studied together, me and her. And I didn't know anything about Tiffany or anything like that, but she was just a really friendly person. And pretty much everybody's been like that. And because the class size numbers are really small, you kind of get a chance to know everybody, specifically the people that are on the boards with you and the organizations with you.
And sections. There are sections in the first year. Talk a little bit about that and how that helps you kind of get to know people.
I think the sections thing is great because you really get to develop a small little family within the family, and you always have someone to call on, and it sort of turns out to be sort of like a group atmosphere, like, oh yeah, we're section 3, and you have this super pride in being in section 3, and so I don't know, it just adds another level of comfort.
Right. And with regard to the classes, are you with your same section in all of your classes?
Yes, when you get to the second semester of your 1L year, you'll have one class where you'll be mixed in with other sections. But other than that, you'll be in the same section for the entire 1L year.
Okay. So those kind of get to be your study buddies, I guess, right? Now, you indicated that you're in those sections for your first year. Do you get to pick your classes in your first year, or are those picked by somebody, or how does that work?
First classes are all designed through the school that you have to pick. They pick them. You don't have any say in that. You can pick your R&W 2 professor. You can bid on one. After your 1L year, then it's free reign. You get to pick the classes you want. If you want to concentrate in advocacy, you can take those courses.
All right. Well, you've mentioned something, concentrating in advocacy. We have concentrations. Are you concentrating in advocacy?
I am not, no,
Okay.
but I do know about it, and I believe someone on this panel is.
No? Nobody?
No?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's talk for just a few minutes about concentrations. We have several concentrations here on campus. We have a concentration in advocacy, as you mentioned. We have a concentration in elder law. We have a concentration in environmental law. And we have a concentration in international law. What that means is after your first year, you can elect to be part of a concentration program. The concentration program is going to zero in on what electives you need to take, and it's also going to help you with mentoring, with networking opportunities, all kinds of ways for you to get into the area that you're interested in. And so a lot of students choose to go into concentrations after their first year. A lot of students decide not to. It's not, you don't have to do a concentration, but if you've decided, I really think this is where I want to be, then it's a great opportunity for you to do that. Now, Advocacy LLM came into existence after you guys were up on that. Anybody talk a little bit about the Advocacy LLM, the joint degree, JD LLM?
Absolutely. That's something I'm very interested in as soon as I get done with my JD program here, and that's headed up by Professor Charles H. Rose, and he's just an icon in the trial advocacy world, where it takes the great experience you already have to the next level, and a lot of very, very well-known trial attorneys around the area are enrolled in that program right now.
All right, yeah. And we actually now have what's a joint program, so you can actually be earning your JD and your LLM at the same time, which is, I think we're the only place in the country that has a joint JD LLM program, and so that's a wonderful opportunity for people that really want to dig down deep into advocacy early on. That is an online course. We have other LLM courses that are also online. We have an international LLM course. We have an elder law LLM. And so those are things that you might at least be thinking about as you come to a school. Eric has asked a little bit about the tax clinic. Yes, there's a tax clinic. It is held in our civil government clinic, which is at our local legal aid, and so that's a great opportunity for people that are interested in tax. Again, I know that I'm probably sounding like I'm over-egging the pudding, as they say, but I'm really, if you have an interest in an area of law, you're going to be hard-pressed not to find an internship, an externship, a clinic that you would be able to take a part of as part of your law school experience. So that's a great thing. Well, we get the question. How much time do these advocacy teams take? And don't tell me your life, but
Yeah, no, I won't blow smoke. They take a lot of time.
Yeah.
I would say 40, 50, 60 hours a week leading up to competitions is the norm, if not more.
okay. And we have part-time students that are part of our advocacy teams, right? They just have to balance it out. Most of our teams practice significantly mostly at night in the evening, so we always have to kind of work around if we have part-time students that are brave enough to be part of that and working. One of the questions was whether in fact people worked and did advocacy teams. Anybody work and do advocacy teams at the same time? Tanisha?
I'm on a team right now with one of my co-mates on the team. She actually has a full-time job. She goes to school and she's doing moot court board. And one of the things that we were actually talking about before we started was having a passion for the advocacy boards. And when you have a passion for it, every time you go to practice, it's not a chore. It's actually something that's fun. I enjoy going to practice. It's the highlight of my day. And so although it's a lot of hours, when you spend a lot of hours at the beach, you don't complain because you enjoy it.
Right.
And so if you enjoy being a part of the advocacy boards, it's not a chore and it's not really it's not as trying as it may seem.
Right. I mean, it's a lot of time, but it's fun, right?
Absolutely.
Give me some times. As you're getting up to the competition, moot court, what are you looking at? Probably. I mean, when you're writing the brief, it's a lot of time too, right? But just those practices. How many hours would you say going, when you're in the 2 or 3 weeks right before competition?
Okay, so it's actually a little bit odd. So in moot court, because at the period of time where you're about to go to competition, we don't want to sound too rehearsed. So actually when we get close to the competition, we actually have less practices. We have more practices at the start of it. The most time-consuming part is the brief, because you have 3 minds trying to get together one solid, fluid document. But then after that, you have about 3 to 4 practices a week, and each practice lasts for 2 to 3 hours. But the caveat to that is that you have to practice for practice. So every time you go to practice, you'll get some critiques, and it's your job to go home and practice on those critiques for practice.
Right. Critiques. Is that tough? Is that a tough part of being a part of a team?
It is tough, but I will say you definitely learn how to get better, and that's the best part of it, is they're teaching you how to be better. It isn't to be mean, it's to help you be a better lawyer eventually. And I will tell you that my confidence in my skills just wasn't up to par when I first started. But through all of the help that I've gotten from the advocacy boards, I have been able to be confident standing in front of a room of 30 judges and lawyers and being able to get up there and do what I need to do.
Cool. Critiques. Those trial team folks, they tough?
They're tough, but it's so necessary and beneficial, because when you come here, you really, I didn't know anything when I came in here about the trial team world, and there's a very specific Stetson way, and the only way you can really develop that Stetson way is through critiques and just hours and hours of practice, and really it's why we do it, is to get better, and having people that are so much more qualified than you tell you how they got to be where they are is very beneficial. So I don't look at critiques as critiques, but more just helping me accomplish what I want to do.
Yeah. Okay, well, obviously we've got a lot of competitions going on. So does Stetson have like an environment that's like a whole bunch of people competing with each other all the time? Like you hear about at other schools where they hide books and those kinds of things?
No. That's not been my experience at all.
No, not mine either.
I have never experienced anything close to that. So yeah.
Favorite part of being on the advocacy board? The food.
Do get free meals. Free meals every practice.
I would say the competitions. They are just so much fun. And if you get involved, you'll realize it's not a job. Like Darnisha was saying, it's not extra hours to have to work. It's something that you want to do. And being at the competition is just this rush. And it's just so great to keep that competitive spirit, especially people that are used to being members of teams. And just that teamwork, too, is just something that you can't learn from within a classroom.
Okay. So now the competitions are in other parts of the country, right?
Absolutely.
Where have you been to, Tiffany?
So I have been to New York. We've been to competitions in Miami. We have been to competitions in Atlanta, Georgia, Macon, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. There's a lot in Georgia.
A lot of Georgia stuff, right? How about you, Darnisha?
I went to Orlando. I've been to
Wow, congratulations.
so far.
I
I went to Macon, Georgia. Last year I went to Boston, and that was the first time I saw snow. And I'll be going to Boston again in about a month.
Yeah, hopefully you won't see snow again. No, I've seen it, don't need to see it again. Kyle?
I've been to West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, St. Louis, Missouri, and also was fortunate enough to go to Montreal as well.
Wow. And of course, we have an international, well, it's actually arbitration, which goes to Vienna and to Hong Kong. So it's not just states, it's international,
Absolutely.
Which is pretty exciting. Somebody has asked me what type of students do the professors usually want on the advocacy teams? And I can tell you one thing. Well, actually 2 things. Work hard, and be coachable. A lot of students will say, well, I want to be on the advocacy team, but I haven't taken trial ad. I mean, we take people on trial advocacy that have never even taken trial ad, because it's not the skills. It's not the things that I can teach you. I can teach you how to do an opening statement. I can teach you. But what I'm looking for is the potential. And one of the things that we have changed this year that we're really excited about is that prior to the competitions from now on, we will be actually doing an advocacy boot camp that will teach you the kind of the advocacy skills that transcend all of these boards. Because some people think, oh, well, there's these skills and these skills and these skills. And the truth is, advocacy skills really are an umbrella over all of the competition teams. And so this coming summer, we will be doing a boot camp for all three of the boards at one time so that students can learn all of those advocacy skills. The point is, if you didn't even want to go onto an advocacy team, you just wanted to do the boot camp. You could do the boot camp and learn everything that we would try to teach you. So what if I don't want to be on a team? How else can I benefit from going to the #1 advocacy school in the nation?
Well, as a 1L, there's a lot of ways you can get involved. You're not allowed to be on a team as a 1L, so there's ways to kind of get your feet wet in every type of advocacy. And there's the moot court briefs and oral arguments that you get through RNW 1 and 2. There's opening statement competitions, closing argument competitions, direct examination competition, even an intramural competition that you can do where it's basically a sports intramural thing, but in a mock trial setting. And I believe the moot court team does that as well. And then as far as going forward 2 and 3L years, there's unlimited classes on skills that you can develop. Also, there's shadow teams for the actual team where you can be involved with the day-to-day preparation and practices. You scrimmage against the teams, and then the only thing you miss out on is not going to competition, but you still get all the coaching and training that everyone else does.
All right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to ask you a little bit about advocacy classes. All right?
All right.
So we'll be on a short break.
I'm Chris Petroskevich, Dean and Professor of Law at the Stetson University College of Law. Many of our faculty and staff are going to answer the question of what it is to be an advocate. As we talk to lawyers in our community, there are 2 major skills that lawyers have when they graduate. One is to be able to advocate orally, the other is to advocate in writing. We very much look forward to you joining us here on campus, and we look forward to seeing you here soon.
I strive to be the kind of advocate who sees beauty and value in every person. I want to fight for those who are forgotten in our legal system, and I hope to be a role model for younger women of all walks of life. I want them to know that they're worthy of respect.
I was inspired by a story that my mentor told me of him helping his elderly father's friend in a situation where the gentleman was powerless to help himself. So I saw law as the medium through which I could help a large amount of people and make a positive difference in their lives.
I think what it all boils down to is that as long as you're working towards what is in the best interest of your client, you are being the best advocate that you can be.
I'm an advocate that aims to internationalize the student experience and our campus.
I came to Stetson with the hope of using my advocacy skills to defend the environment, because the environment is very important to me and it's something that I'm passionate about.
Right now I'm working with middle school and high school students in teaching them about the criminal justice system and the juvenile justice system, and it's called the Street Law Program.
Really what an advocate does is really get behind a cause, whether it's supporting their client's position or it's getting behind a cause and compelling others to action. It's really about empowering people to me.
Students always ask me, what is the single greatest characteristics that a truly great advocate has? And the answer that I give them is one that they never expect: compassion. It's all about being able to sense the case through the other person's eyes.
Advocacy is about being a voice for your clients. The law can be very complicated, and sometimes it's difficult to understand. And as a lawyer, you educate, you advise, and you advocate on behalf of your clients. And as an advocate, you can make a difference not only in the lives of your client, but also in the lives of those in society.
Right now I'm interning with a judge in St. Petersburg, and I get to see the state attorneys come in every day and get to watch what they do and see it from the judicial perspective. But I know more than anything I want to be on the other side of the bench. I want to be a prosecutor and be able to be a litigator and be an advocate in the court day in and day out.
I like to be an advocate who uses the law to make people's lives better. In elder law, it's important to recognize that people are in significant situations where a lawyer can provide them with great legal options and give them a better quality of life.
Being an advocate means representing the interest of those who can't speak for themselves, like these animals.
I'm a civil and human rights advocate, and to me that means that I am dedicated to using my skills, my persuasive, analytical, and organizational skills, to make sure that human needs are prioritized above financial profit.
I hope you've enjoyed hearing from our students and faculty, and very much look forward to seeing you here on our campus.
Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that short video that showed a little bit about the various ways that we use advocacy to help people and to make the world a better place, and how important we believe that is here at Stetson. So I asked the question kind of before break. Let's talk a little bit about the advocacy classes, all right? Now, and maybe we need to back up a second. We use this word advocacy like everybody should know what it means. What does it kind of mean to you guys? I mean, when you say advocacy classes and advocacy, what are you really talking about with regard to that?
To me, advocacy gives you the tools to really represent your client in a zealous manner and get them justice. It basically is a way to apply the black letter law in an effective manner to get results for your client.
Right? You guys kind of agree with that? Anything you'd add? Yeah, wholehearted. You're like, good job, Kyle. Yeah, we're glad you did that. Yeah, and I think one of the things that some people don't understand is that advocacy classes are a lot about the skill of actually being a lawyer, right? So we talk a lot about, as Darnisha said, we don't want to just learn the law. We want to learn how we use that law to effectively represent clients, to effectively help people get done what they need to be done, or maybe defend themselves in a situation where they really wish they hadn't found themselves. So talk to me a little bit about these advocacy or sometimes skills classes that are here at Stetson. What kind of skills classes have you all taken, and what would you say about those?
I've done a few. I'm in pre-trial practice right now, which is just the building blocks and setting up for trial. So it's a lot of motion practice, a lot of taking depositions and mediations and that kind of thing. Trial ad is really just another, I keep going back to the laboratory setting because that's really what it is. You learn how to do a opening statement. You have either a very well-known trial attorney or a judge around town teach you the fundamentals to openings. Then you'll break down and you'll do directs, crosses, closings, and then you'll run 2 trials that will be they will be combined to be your final grade. And it's just another way to sharpen your skills, and then you can take it a step further and do advanced trial ad, which is another class that I've done.
Okay. Bernicia, you've done pre-trial. What did you think of pre-trial?
I'm actually in pre-trial now, and
Okay.
so I guess a good way to distinguish what is advocacy and what is like sort of theory is civil procedure versus pre-trial practice. So in civil procedure, you'll learn a rule that a defendant has to answer a complaint within 21 days. In pre-trial practice, you'll actually be drafting that answer. And so I think the practical skills, again, is what you're really going to need on day one. And so pre-trial practice is helping me with that. And as Kyle said, it's the process, everything up to the actual trial.
Okay. Tiffany, any skills classes that you've experienced here at Stetson?
Sure. Well, I've taken negotiation and mediation, and what's really cool about negotiation and mediation is the class breaks up into partners, and everybody gets a set of general facts for a problem. And then the partners each get specific secret facts that are specific to their client's interests, and you each represent a different client. And what's really cool is that the way your grade is based is you do a final negotiation and you also do a final mediation. And for the final mediation, you actually get a real mediator that does this for a living to come in and sort of walk you through the mediation process.
Oh, very cool. So I think what's interesting about Stetson is that we have such a variety of skills classes. We have a lot of drafting classes where you learn how to actually draft the documents, much like the pretrial, but also we have drafting classes that deal with documents that you would be drafting not in a litigation context, but just in your office to help your clients. We have an immigration course, right? Where we
Yes.
do a skills course based on immigration law. And so we have a wide variety of what we call advocacy or skills courses here at Stetson, because one of our biggest goals is for you to walk out the door job ready. Right? Ready to do the job, not just to think about the law, not just to research the law, but to actually take that law and apply it to the specific facts of your client. And so that's kind of our goal throughout the semesters, that even from the moment you walk in with your R&W class, right? Because writing is such an important part of being a lawyer. And so if you can't write well, you are going to be handicapped for your entire career. So we really want R&W to be a very important part of what you do that first year. Somebody asked a little bit about what is the legal aspects of the advocacy side. Can you talk a little bit about the competition for 1Ls that's in moot court?
So the 1L competition, you'll get like 3 cases that you'll have to read through, and then you'll have to incorporate that into an argument. You only have to do the oral argument part. You don't have to do the briefing part. And they're usually pretty fun. The last one was based off of Toy Story. So it's just a chance for you to get your feet wet, and you'll still be able to get the idea of taking a legal principle and developing it into an argument.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then in your R&W 2 course, you actually write a brief and argue an oral argument. So you get that experience in that second semester of your first year. Absolutely. We have some of our R&W programs actually are substance specific. So we have an elder law, we have an environmental law. So in that second semester, you can choose your R&W based on a subject matter that you might be interested in. I think that one of the best things to do as a law student is to try a whole bunch of stuff out, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you go, oh, I tried that out, I don't want to do that, or I tried that out and I love it. Has that been your experience? And what things have you all tried out and either decided you loved or decided that, nah, it's not for me?
Well, I was a biology major in undergrad, and I thought that I was going to come to law school and really love intellectual property. And the more that I got into intellectual property, it just wasn't my niche. It just wasn't what I want to practice. So then I thought maybe business law, corporate law, but then coming from a biology background, it's not really on the same level. So I took a corporations course, and it was a great course, but once I took bankruptcy, and it was taught by a bankruptcy judge that practices here in Tampa, I was able to decide that bankruptcy was what I wanted to practice. And then doing the bankruptcy moot court competition, which is actually the reason that I took the bankruptcy course, was to help prepare me for that, is ultimately what solidified my hope to practice bankruptcy law.
Very cool. Kyle, tried out anything?
Yeah, well, I got my feet wet with moot court with the R&W 2 oral arguments, and I realized I'm just not a podium guy. So I kind of ran away from that area of the law. I got my feet wet with immigration advocacy as well through a course there, a skills course. And there it's interesting because you're seated in your trials. Wasn't a big fan of that either. And my home was where I originally thought it would be, which is on the trial team.
So my 1L year, I did the closing argument competition, and I absolutely loved it. And then I also did R&W 2, and I did my oral argument, and I felt like I was not very good at it at all. And ironically, that's the reason why I wanted to do moot court, because I wanted to strengthen a skill. When I first started moot court, I literally couldn't get through an argument without either crying or just stopping and saying, I don't know what else to say. And now I'm totally comfortable getting up there for 15 minutes and just talking. And in fact, 15 minutes is not long enough. Yeah. And so I chose the one that kind of highlighted my weakness in order to strengthen my skills.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I will suggest to you that I've had the amazing opportunity to coach each one of these people, and I can tell you they're all amazing advocates. But they weren't the first day, right? They weren't. Most of them did not come in, knowing how to do this stuff. And that was great because, as I said earlier, they were coachable and they wanted to learn and they wanted to listen. And so that was a great opportunity for me to get to watch them become the great oralists that they are. tell me a little bit about, now you all mentioned the fact that we have adjuncts and we have people coming in. What's been your experience with adjunct professors?
Man, lucky to have them, and that's been my experience. Professor Terrence McCarthy is an adjunct professor here. He teaches advanced trial ad, and this man founded the first federal public defender's office. He is the guy when it comes to cross-examination. He's famous in the criminal law world, and you just feel honored to be in a courtroom and learn from people that are truly the best at what they do. All the adjunct professors are great, and he was my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't actually had the honor of being taught by an adjunct professor, but sometimes the adjunct professors and actually practitioners and judges actually come to judge our moot court practices. And I really feel like that's a pivotal part of what makes us so successful when we actually get to the competitions.
Okay. So they just come out and like judge you, or how does that work? Do you know?
Yes. So the support that Stetson has in the community is really quite amazing. So what we'll do to prepare the judges is we'll send them, our fact pattern, and we'll send them prospective arguments on both sides of what you could expect to hear or questions you might want to ask. And so they, on their own volition, decide to come in and just help us and give us feedback. And that's always really helpful.
Do they get paid?
No.
No. I mean, obviously it's a setup. But yeah, we have an amazing group of alums and local practitioners who are just so willing to come out and judge moot court competitions, trial team competitions, ADR, or anything that we basically ask them to do. And why is that important to you as a student? You want to know that the school that you go to has a loyal following for people after they graduate, because that's going to make your experience wonderful when you're here, but it's also going to make you understand that that school values their alums and takes care of them and wants them to be part of the Stetson experience long after they've graduated. So that's an important information gathering that you might want to do as you're looking at schools and deciding which school that you would like to go to. We also have a lot of networking opportunities. We have students that put together, based on their organizations, opportunities to meet people. But every time a professor or a judge or a practitioner comes out, they're able to meet with students, and students can learn from that. And so that's a great opportunity. There's a great question. How is the interaction with professors and students regarding office hours and other assistants? You ever see professors, or do they go in their offices and shut their doors?
They're always available. They always have set office hours, and then they're always available by appointment as well. I've never had a professor that I couldn't reach within a day. I really haven't.
In fact, my experience has been where the professors are actually waiting, wanting you to come visit them. And it's never like, oh, I'm not able to visit them. It's just that they want you to come, and a lot of times we don't take full advantage of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true.
And your coaching staff. Now, I indicated I had coached all of you, but do we have other faculty members that actually coach also on the teams?
Yes. We're fortunate enough to have multiple faculty members, as well as a lot of local alums from the teams come back and coach and judge and become a part of the selection process as well. So it's once you're done here, you're not done with the team.
Yeah, you're not done with Stetson. We'll find you.
No.
And that's another interesting distinction between Stetson Advocacy and other schools. We don't have student coached teams that go out to competitions, and you might be surprised to find out that there's a lot of schools who have no faculty involvement with their teams whatsoever. We don't have teams that go out that haven't been either by an adjunct or by a regular full-time faculty member. I can assure you, have more full-time faculty members coaching advocacy teams than any other school in the nation. And I'm not just talking about the people in the advocacy center. I'm talking about, professors, deans. We have a dean that coaches, I think, more teams than anybody else on campus. So if it's a bankruptcy, we might have our bankruptcy professor coaching that team. And so we are very much about advocacy being across the campus. It's not just, confined to a little advocacy center, although we have a wonderful center run by Professor Rose, our Excellence in Advocacy Center. But that doesn't mean that that's the only people that are involved in advocacy here at Stetson. We have a wonderfully generous faculty who are involved in advocacy across the curriculum, if you will. Do a lot of students try out for the teams, and how competitive is it?
I know trial team's competitive.
Yeah.
It really is. I think anywhere from 60 to 80 people try out a year, and we take, I think, 10 to 20.
Yeah.
Right? I think 20, 25 is on the team total.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And of course, some of those are returners.
And right, yeah. So you're using 10, 12 a year, and 20 and 25 totally on the team.
Yeah. And ADR, I think we had 55 or 60 try out this last time.
I'm not sure.
Moot court, yeah. Yes, it's competitive, I think we'd have to say, right? But again, it is an opportunity to try a skill that you may not have tried before, right? So one of the things that we like to encourage all students at Stetson is to get as many of those opportunities as you can, because it's merely trying out is just a great opportunity to try to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Somebody asked a little bit about the shadow teams. And yes, 1Ls can do shadow team. We don't encourage it. You really need to understand that your first year here at Stetson and anywhere is really going to require you to kind of concentrate on getting used to how it works. Very difficult classes, a lot of reading, a completely different way of kind of thinking about the material and interacting with the material, very different in class than you may have experienced at the undergraduate level. And so we don't encourage a lot of participation directly with the competition teams. We have intramurals, we have competitions for the 1Ls because we want them to have those opportunities, but we really want our 1Ls to concentrate on having a successful first year, because that first year really kind of sets the foundation for you. So you want to be very cautious about getting involved in too much. I think what happens sometimes, and maybe you guys can speak to this, is that the 1L year you're just overwhelmed with the amount of work. All right, and then the 2L year you're overwhelmed with all of the opportunities, right? Yeah. So now you're really busy, not necessarily because of the workload in the classes, although hopefully that still is there, but all the extracurricular activities that you can do, which are amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do students feel about the Tampa Bay area? I want to hear you, coming from New Jersey. What'd you think of Tampa Bay?
I love it. It's beautiful. You're 5 minutes from school to a great beach. It's the most beautiful beach. I think it actually was just rated number 2 in the country.
Yes.
The Tampa Bay area is great. Actually, where I lived in New Jersey, I'm about 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So coming from such a large city, I wasn't sure how I was going to like Tampa because it still is a city, but just not as large. And I have to say, Tampa is beautiful. It's just as much a big city, but with palm trees, and the palm trees make everything better, I'm convinced.
Yeah. And of course, our St. Pete downtown has just grown even in the last 5 years, and there's so much going on down in downtown St. Pete. I know that you guys probably don't get down there very much, but let me tell you, it's really grown.
I can imagine.
And one other thing is, today is February 3rd, and it's 72 degrees.
Yeah, it's gorgeous outside. Yeah. Miami, big change between Miami and here, or?
Sort of. Well, when I look at Miami versus Gulfport, where the school is, Gulfport is a lot slower paced, and I think that's actually really fertile ground for a law school. And that's another thing about Stetson that I like, that it's a satellite campus from its undergraduate campus, because the mindset of undergraduate students and law school students tends to be different.
Right. Yes. Yes.
To say the least.
And how they spend their time.
Yeah.
All right. So we're heading into our last couple of minutes. So I want to give everybody their last chance to give a piece of wisdom. All right. Go back 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when you were sitting where these folks are sitting, thinking about law school. What tidbit of wisdom would you give them about how to prepare for what they're going to be starting hopefully in August? Sleep a lot.
My biggest piece of advice is to learn how to schedule your time efficiently. You will need to get a planner, and you'll need to schedule the hours from 7 in the morning till 10 at night, and you'll have to make sure that you fit everything in, but there's great opportunities here, and you won't be hard-pressed to miss any of those.
Okay. Kyle? Words of wisdom, my man.
And time management is key. I would also say just follow your heart. Find the way and find the area of law that you really are interested in and pursue it with everything you've got.
My piece of advice would be to plan to enjoy the law school experience. Before coming to law school, I thought, this is going to take up all of my time. I'm going to, pretty much this is going to be completely stressful. I'm not going to enjoy it, but enjoy it. It's only 3 years, and there's a lot of opportunities that you only get in law school, like being on an advocacy board. You'll only get that in law school. And so enjoy the law school experience. Yeah, it's going to be tough, and that's probably the advice you'll get from a lot of people, but also recognize that it's also going to be fun.
All right. So, 3 years. Has it gone fast, gone slow?
Just like that.
Just like that. And there you are. Well, that ends our presentation. We hope we have answered as many of your questions as you've put up there. If you have any additional questions, you certainly can email any of us, and we'd be very happy to give you all the information we could give you. And I want to just thank my panelists, who were just fantastic. So thank you very much,
Thank you.
and have a great afternoon.
Thank you for watching Stetson Law Live. For more information, send us an email or give us a call. For your convenience, our contact information will remain on screen for the next few minutes. Be sure to check our homepage often for news, information, and updates. Thanks again. We look forward to hearing from you soon.